As a basic minimum, whether it's private brand or not, you're going to want to have FDA certification to sell in the U.S. I think there's some exemption items, but really, you really need an FDA certification. Of course, the ability to export, specifically for a private brand strategy, you will want to have some certification under GFSI. GFSI is the Global Food Service Initiative Program. It was basically a scheme that came together 20 or 30 years ago between some of the largest retailers in Europe, and then was subscribed to by many of the American and other European retailers, because at the end of the day, the retailers that are putting the items that are being produced in foreign countries, whether it's Latin America or not, are being done in their name. And so at the end of the day, that's part of the reason why private brand does so well, because the retailer is already recognized by the consumer. On the flip side to that, they want to make sure that they're selling products that are really put their best foot forward as far as their branding is concerned. And the GFSI scheme, whether it's BRC in Europe, the Europeans really ask for BRC. The United States asks for SQF Level 2. FSSC 22000 is also a popular one. Any of these schemes under GFSI will allow the retailer to buy the product of the supplier and put it in their name, of course. So really, for me anyway, and anybody who wants to pursue a private brand strategy, whether it's United States or Europe, will really need to have a qualification under a GFSI scheme. Every category is different. What might be necessary in one category may not be as important in another category. But as a general rule of thumb, of course, we look for a supplier, hopefully, that is already exporting to the U.S., in my case. Or if you're coming from Europe, I'm assuming they're going to want something that's coming from Europe, that's going to Europe already. Because that means that they've already been exposed to a lot of there's certain challenges and so on that it takes to be able to get your product from FOB plant or X-Works plant all the way to CIF port and XYZ country outside of yours. So that helps. The ability to have scalability and volume. In other words, if you're already shipping container loads of your product, chances are is that you already have the expertise to be able to deliver into certain countries. So scalability of volume, expertise in prior shipping, certifications, whatever certifications in the strategy that you're trying to pursue. But they have generally three main strategies, right? One is a distributorship, and I meet that a lot. I say, are you selling into the United States? And they say, yeah, I'm selling into the United States. Oh, can you tell me how? And they say, oh, well, I'm selling into a distributor in New York, and I'm selling a distributor in California. That's a different situation. That's fine. It's a strategy, but that's more, the distributor is buying your product and taking ownership of that and taking the risk and so on and so forth. So it's convenient initially for the supplier because they can move the product and away they go. And it adds that extra level of sales, but they're not really representing their brand, and they're not moving forward in that expansion that I think ultimately all suppliers really are looking for. So in that sense, what they might be looking for is a secondary strategy, which is to build their brand in the country. Now, all of us who sell as suppliers or branding strategies, Daymon is of course the world leader in private brand development, so we know it very well. It is extremely hard. It is not something easily done, especially in a hypermarket like the US or Europe, which is extremely competitive, and most items, however unique they might be, are going to be hard to position and develop from scratch. That's a secondary option. And then of course the tertiary option, which is to go the private brand route, which is very good, at least for our company's been growing about 25% for the last 4 years. And part of it is because a lot of the growth factors that are driving markets, like the millennials influence, organics, better for you solutions, so on and so forth, it's really private brands that are driving that space, because the Nestle's of the world and the Coca-Colas of the world, honestly, in this situation, they're behind the curve. You don't see organic Coca-Cola. You don't really see, you're starting to see some of this stuff, but they, places like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and our partners with Daymons, we've been doing it for many years because we can move to market quicker, and we have the ability and flexibility to be able to utilize the suppliers that exist to do it. The flip side to that, of course, is that the supplier has to have the certifications in order to take advantage of that white space. And there's a growing space for it. Some suppliers might be looking for a smaller sales bump. They're not trying to really set the world on fire, and they're looking for a nostalgia strategy where they're going to sell in Newark and New Jersey and parts of other parts of the country, because they know that their buyer is Ecuadorian and they're going to buy that type of soda that they've always bought. That's great, and they can service that market. If they're trying to build something more national or at least more regionalized, for instance, the eastern region of the US or something like that, then again, they could either hire a company like ours, like Daymon, which literally what we do is help companies develop their brands, whether it's private brand for the retailers or their own brands. We have that capability. We're very good at it. And we're not the only kids in the block. We tend to be one of the biggest ones, but there are others. You can use a service like that, or you can enter a private brand strategy to get your product on shelf. In other words, your product is quality, and you've proven it because now you're selling it at Wegmans or Whole Foods or Ahold or whoever. It's selling at shelf under their name. But at the end of the day, somebody like me or anybody else will turn around that package and say, oh, well, who actually makes it? It's going to be XYZ Co. in Paraguay or in Ecuador or lo que sea or whatever. And so that helps increase exposure for those brands, because at the end of the day, oh, well, who's making it? This is who's making it. They're going to get those phone calls. They're going to say, well, can you make it for me and my brand? And then ultimately, once you have that exposure and people are actually looking for it, then you can start moving into your own brand, because now you have that quality recognition that's already built into the market.